Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages. The book I'm reviewing today originally came out in 2015, but this year, Criado-Perez put out a updated version of it. So I kind of had it on my list all year, but then I saw they had this one coming out, and then production was stalled a little bit. Got a copy once it came out, and so Do It Like a Woman is the book. And this is, as you may imagine, this is about feminism. I have been itching to read it because this book right here, Invisible Women, rocked my world. And it wasn't the, I would say Do It Like a Woman is more like a general overview of feminism in the international sense, which I think is important because that to me is a little bit more of like where I should be rather than just like in white collar society we have that like this is a whole like women as a species. So Invisible Women was really so the byline is data bias in a world designed for men. And so if you can see there's women in there, it's just kind of like invisible. And it was just fascinating. There were so many things, from prescription pills to the way car safety is designed, everything being structured just for one person, and that person by default being a man. And that it was a just fantastic dive into that, where I'm kind of glad. I guess I'm glad I read this first because it was like, how do I want to say this? That opened my eyes more, and I really was like, damn, she's onto something. Where this, I really enjoyed Do It Like a Woman, but it also felt like if you just need a book on feminism, this is the one where that's so kind of off in another direction and unique, where I don't know that I would have been like drawn, like I need to get her next one. And so I'm glad it worked out in the sequence where now, like, if she has a third book, I'll be right there ready for it. But, so Do It Like a Woman, as I said, kind of goes over the more, like, international difficulties that women are facing. And I think that kind of helps to ground the feminist movement, or maybe people who are new to it. She does a really good job of dissecting heavy topics, but still making it something you want to keep reading. And so that's what I felt kind of perplexed by, where I was at a time where I was like, I even remember talking with Jessica Lit on Fire on like books I was looking at, and she recommended something, and I was like, I hate to like chagrin your recommendation here, but I don't want something really heavy right now. I was going through kind of a lot, but was somehow reading this at the same time. And so like as I look at like the subject matter of this, like if someone asked me like sitting in a coffee shop, like, what are you reading about right now? Like, well, so it's a great way to learn about heavy things. And I think that's important, where I think it's easier to learn about heavy things if we're like fired up and it's a reaction to something, where I think this is just like sort of a baseline understanding, and it's current events, but it's not things that will become dated. So I just felt that this book right here, it's a great rundown of kind of where things are at, a little bit of recognizing privilege, obviously, as a man, but privilege of fighting for feminism within a country that's pretty forward thinking relative to where others are at, be that because of their religion or their structures of government or whatever it is. It's just eye-opening to see like how wide the scale is of quality of life, and not because of just like economics, where everyone in that area in this boat, but specifically like treatment of women versus a man, how big that disparity is and how low it can go globally. And so kind of recognizing the fight for feminism of being almost akin to the old like Ain't I a Woman back in slave days, or not slave days, but advocating for voting rights, where white women were like, we deserve the right to vote. Women should be able to vote. Women are just as intellectual or insightful as men, and better words used than that I can't think right now. But and then you have the famous quote of Ain't I a Woman, of black women saying like, so you're fighting for our rights too, right? And that kind of toppled things in an interesting way, where I think that this, to say like we're gonna fight for things specific to further advanced societies you would have women saying like, but you're fighting for women. I'm a woman, and this is what's happening. You're gonna fight for me too? Like, especially from the area of privilege you're at where you could do more. And so I think that it's a great way to frame the movement of feminism and how it's being carried out in other areas. It's not to say that it's, you know, it's present all over, and there are people doing major things, and the advocacy work that they do, or like the things that they're doing in the streets in their real world, is so much more dramatic than, you know, fighting for, want to see just as many women running startups in Silicon Valley, like saying that there's so many men out here. Like, that fight doesn't hold a candle to it. It's not that it's not important, but like, yeah, it's an eye-opening book. I'm probably stuttering more in this than any other review, because it just, like, as a man, it just feels ridiculous for me to like discuss feminism. So like or not discuss it, but critique at all. So I try to stay more onto the book, and it's really sectioned out into like 7 essays, 5 pretty long essays, and so I try to do them one shot each. But it's all very insightful, and she's a wonderful person to follow on like Twitter and other things too. The content that she shares kind of helps keep me guided in that way outside of the times where I'm like reading or have just recently read her books. But I remember Visible Women, I read it, I was sick one time one time ever, but a while ago, and I read it in one day and just like blazed through it. I was just like, I got to a point where it's like, I want to like take a picture of every paragraph and post it like every fucking time. It was just like, damn, and like, so I got to a point where like I was recommending it so much. I did like a post just on that book of like, this thing just blew my mind. And so I've been kind of excited when 2020 was wrapping up, and I was kind of putting together a list of like, what are the books you really want to read before you go shopping for other ones? Like, what are some of the backlogs of books you want to knock out? And this was one of them. And I'm glad I stalled on it a little bit to then see that there was a new edition coming. I'm not sure what elements are new, or if there's maybe just updates to the stories in those 5 essays, but there was also, you know, foreword and afterword, and it was very cognizant of the way the world is, you know. But yeah, great recommendation, honestly, on both. Not to make this a review of 2 books at once, or to get away from the goodness that is this book, but both of these are fantastic. If you feel like you already got a good sense on international, go for this. If you're wanting Feminism 101, I think this is what it would be. Like, this is a perfect thing to hand someone and say, like, you need to put this in your noggin. So I'm glad I put that in my noggin. I'm glad you put this video into your noggin. I appreciate any thumbs up, subscribes, little comments below, anything like that. It makes YouTube funner.